What's up guys, it's Alex the Magician here, back for another Heroes 3 tier list video, and in this one we are ranking tier 3 units in terms of how good they are. So same as the tier 4 ranking, we are not going to be considering how difficult the dwellings are to take, since internally the dwellings are not actually guarded, right? So we're mainly just thinking about how good the units themselves are. And if you guys happen to disagree, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you guys would rank differently. And as always, remember, tier lists are opinions, so don't hate me if I rank your favorite units lower than you think they should be. And if you have any ideas for videos you'd like to see me do, let me know in the comments below as well. If I like the idea, I may very well do the video. All right, so let's just get into this. The first one, we're going to be ranking the Sea Dogs. So you pretty much have to rank the Sea Dogs as your top tier here, because they are the only units in the game actually that give you a triple upgrade, right? So, or I mean a double upgrade. There's 3 units total. So you have the Pirates, then you upgrade those to Corsairs, and then you upgrade those to Sea Dogs. And while Sea Dogs are expensive and slightly challenging to build and to upgrade, they are a ridiculous unit. So first of all, they have no melee penalty and no enemy retaliation. Corsairs also have no melee penalty and no enemy retaliation. The regular pirates only have no melee penalty. But what makes these guys ridiculous is their accurate shot ability. So only the Sea Dogs have that, Corsairs and the pirates don't. And this ability is basically like the death stare of mighty gorgons that gives you a chance to instantly kill a unit. The chance, but it's ranged, right? So it's like the death stare, but ranged. The chance is lower, so each Sea Dog in a stack has a 3% chance of killing a unit if he's shooting without penalty. 2% chance if he's shooting with penalty, and you cannot actually, the accurate shot ability will not work if you're shooting something behind walls, right? But so that means that the more you have them, of course, the higher the chance will be for you to actually one-shot something. And that can be super useful when you're fighting something tough, like when you're fighting some sort of dragons, especially the strong dragons like Crystal and Rust, maybe Fairy dragons. So that can be really, really useful in terms of just one-shotting a couple of dragons right away. So really, really crazy units. Interesting mechanic was the double upgrade as well. But yeah, for basically they're here because of their fighting ability, the no retaliation and no melee penalty, and the accurate shot has a lot to do with their first place on this list. All right, next we're going to have the Dragonflies and the Grand Elves. So the Dragonflies, they are pretty cool. First of all, they're really fast. They have speed 13, so hard to outspeed. Only Efreet Sultans have the same speed, and of course Firebirds have better speed, but even Angels cannot outspeed these, so in a lot of cases you'll get the first move with these. The regular Serpent Flies have speed 9, which is also still good. And what's annoying about these is that they have an ability that allows them to dispel beneficial spells. Both the Serpent Flies and the Dragonflies have that ability, but the Dragonflies also cast weakness on whatever they're attacking. So they're really good to be utilized as one stacks, and you know, if your opponent buffs, they can even take off anti-magic and things like that. So utilizing these things as really fast one stacks that can also dispel buffs from your opponent's army is really annoying. So really good unit, I would say. Their fighting ability, nothing special, they're pretty weak, but the speed and the dispel ability is the reason that they're this high on the list. All right, Grand Elves, really good shooter unit. So they are kind of like your main damage dealing stack for Rampart in the early game in most cases, because a lot of people start Ivor as, pick Ivor as their starting hero for Rampart, and he starts with 2 stacks of Elves, so you will have anywhere from like 14 to 19 Elves, and you usually will go for their upgrade. So really good. Definitely much better with the upgrade because the upgrade gives them a double attack. It doesn't really do anything to increase the stats, but it gives them a double shot, right? Where regular elves only shoot once, so that doubles their damage potential. So yeah, not a whole lot else to say about that. You definitely want the upgrade as soon as possible. And yeah, I mean, if you can protect these, obviously they're ranged units, so they're really fragile in hand to hand. They're pretty much worthless. So it's really, really important to protect them if you're using them as your main damage dealing stack. But if you can utilize them properly, they can be a huge help. They can even, on Ivor, help you take pickets. They can help you deal with guards that you wouldn't otherwise be able to deal with by just kind of shooting them down and dealing a lot of unanswered damage. Okay, next I am going to rank the Steel Golems and the Cerberus. So the Steel Golems, I like them a lot because of their magic resistance ability. So with the magic resistance, they are good targets for armor bombing or, even using something like chain lightning and not being afraid to hit your own units. And also against something like fairy dragons, because once again, they will have 75% magic resistance. They're also immune to mind spells. So the regular golems have 50% magic resistance, steel golems 75, and they also have +2 speed on top of the regular golems, which is still pretty slow, but because of that, they are really tanky and they have that magic resistance, so for that reason I have them this high on the list. The Cerberus are pretty cool. The upgrade is definitely interesting. It gives them a 3-headed attack, so they hit 3 hexes that are in front of them. And they also have no retaliation. And they're pretty fast. They will have speed 8. The regular dogs, hellhounds, they don't have no retaliation and they don't have the 3-headed attack. So the upgrade is pretty interesting. I would say it's, more worth it than some other upgrades. But yeah, overall, a somewhat solid unit, decent in fighting. They are somewhat fragile, but because they will not be taking any damage back, the Cerberus, in a lot of cases, you can keep them alive. So pretty decent unit, I would say. All right, next we are going to have the Royal Griffins, the Evil Eyes, and also the Wraiths. So Royal Griffins have unlimited retaliations, pretty strong unit for a tier 3, and they also fly and they have speed 9, so pretty fast as well. Regular Griffins have speed 6 and they have 2 retaliations, not unlimited. So the upgrade is worthwhile if you can get a decent number of these. Not much else to say. I mean, yeah, pretty fast, pretty solid unit all around, and unlimited retaliations. They are somewhat fragile. I mean, they die somewhat easily, but again, if you are fighting a lot of melee stacks, right? At least you'll be dealing damage back to everything that hits these. All right, as far as the Evil Eyes go, actually the upgrade is not that great at all. It gives them more shots and like a very slight increase in terms of stats. So this is probably one of the worst upgrades on this list. But they are shooter units, and decent ones at that, and they also have no melee penalty. Both the Evil Eyes and the unupgraded Beholders have no melee penalties, so they can even fight when the gap is closed. Definitely better doing that range damage, though, because they are kind of weak in melee, in terms of their HP, but still pretty solid unit all around, and I would even almost say that they're better than the Medusas for dungeon, because the Medusas only have 4 shots, or 8 if you upgrade them, and yeah, so these guys, I remember I actually had a game where I was breaking with dungeon on something like 60 something Evil Eyes and maybe like 30 Medusas. It was just a weird game like that, and I was telling somebody who was talking trash on Medusas, and I was like, hey, come on, I broke once with like 30 Medusas and 60 Evil Eyes, and they're like, well, it was the Evil Eyes that carried that fight, I'm sure. So Yeah, if you can get a decent number of these, they're somewhat solid. Again, with dungeon, you don't necessarily want to flag these dwellings in many cases because you are going to be trying to portal something like the dragons or manticores or minotaurs. But if necessary, if you get a lot of these, then they can be a somewhat decent power stack. All right, and the Wraiths that we have on here, so they're an interesting unit. They're like a mini vampire in a lot of cases. Even the unupgraded version has regeneration, so they are pretty useful in taking side towns. What I do when I am playing as Necro is I put just the Wraiths, or the Whites, the unupgraded ones, on a hero with decent defense, and just send them on that for a side town, and you can clear a lot of blocks. Like you can clear a small number of gremlins, you can clear imps, maybe gnolls, so things like that. Because of the regeneration of the Whites, you're able to clear those, and of course take the side town as well. And also, the upgraded version has the mana drain ability. So you can actually utilize one stacks of these, and it is a legitimate strategy to Wraith bomb your opponent. So basically, just send these. Like, let's say you find a box of Wraiths, and then you can just send multiple heroes at your opponent with 7 1-stacks of these and just drain. So each Wraith 1-stack will drain 2 mana. So you can imagine if you do that a few times, you can completely drain your opponent of mana if he, allows you to do something like that. So definitely a strategy that can be utilized in a PvP scenario. And for that, if you have a decent enough number of them, it may be worth either upgrading them or, obviously if you find a Wraith box, then, don't use them as meat and, perhaps utilize them as a mana draining bomb on your opponent. All right, next I'm going to rank the water elementals, or ice elementals, actually. So the ice elemental upgrade allows the units to actually shoot, right? So the water elementals, they are melee creatures. The ice elementals are ranged. Not the greatest units. I mean, that's why they're so low on the list. As far as the elementals go, anything after air elementals is kind of weak for their tier. Since these guys are ranged, it's still somewhat decent. But overall, I mean, it's not that common to see you go for these. It's not that common for you to actually upgrade them. They can be useful if you happen to find a box of them, but they do have a high damage spread from 3 to 6. And so that means it's a little bit random, and usually you're not really dealing too much damage with these. So overall, I mean, the best thing about these is that they're ranged, and they also have a slew of vulnerabilities, like they're vulnerable to fire, fire magic. So, I would say somewhat of a mediocre unit, can be useful in certain situations, but not that common for you to go for them. Usually you just build water and ice elementals, water elementals if you just need additional meat, and you go for the upgrade if you find, a bunch of dwellings of ice or water elementals or a box. All right, and the last one on the list is going to be the orcs and orc chieftains. So the orc chieftain upgrade just gives them a little bit more HP and better speed. Ranged units that don't deal a whole lot of damage. Usually these guys just serve as meat in, hives or whatever else, you need meat for. So really pretty mediocre unit. When you compare like the ice elementals and the orc chieftains to the grand elves, or, and the sea dogs, it's just night and day. Like it's not even in the same level. Even the beholders are still much better at dealing damage than these guys. So yeah, not much else to say about that. This is my ranking. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, if you would rank something differently. Maybe if you find better uses for some of these creatures, let me know. I'm also curious, perhaps I'm utilizing some of this incorrectly, and I'm always down for learning and improving my game as well. All right, so thanks once again for watching, and as always, check out my Twitch stream, link in the description below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.